And come out. Hi. We are back with some more Beatles track versus track. And we've come to the part of our Beatles experiment, Matt, where there's a big white elephant in the room. And it's the one Beatles double album. And the way our show works, like it's about the track listing and we try and get them to match up. So how do we come, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Well, I mean, it would be so tidy if they each disc had 15 tracks, but as our listeners know, because they're intelligent and attractive, we've got 17 tracks on the first disc and we've got 13 on the second. So just basic math tells us that to make this work, we have to go 15 on the first disc, put those last two on the first disc and slot them in as number 1 and 2 respectively on the second disc.
Yeah, we're doing the White Album versus the White Album.
Yeah.
So yeah, one half versus the other half, and just splitting it down the middle, not worrying about sides, as you said.
Yeah.
And eventually, maybe we'll do one half of it versus another album and versus another album. I've told you, I don't think I've talked about it on the channel. This is the album I have I'm not going to say it's my least favorite, but it's the one I have the least familiarity with because I didn't grow up with it. My parents didn't own a copy. I know a lot of people who talk about growing up with it and loving the songs about the animals and they associate them as like kid songs. I didn't have that. I wasn't able to afford a CD copy because CDs were expensive, especially those double disc ones, until like maybe late college. I think I maybe splurged for it. And that was cool because there were all these Beatles songs I pretty much never heard before. Are they the best Beatles songs? The ones I never heard before? Maybe not, but that was a cool period. But I still haven't. There's like a decade or so that this is behind on the others. How about you? What's your experience with the big old whitey here?
Yeah, my dad stopped buying Beatles albums like after Sgt. Pepper. So Magical Mystery Tour, White Album, Let It Be, Abbey Road, they were all like the last ones that we had him buy. So he had the vinyl copies of pretty much all those Capitol releases up to that point. And yeah, the White Album was one of the last ones I think we ever got to, but like I instantly fell in love with the first side, the first disc, I should say. And it was like years later that I even like listened to the second disc. And it wasn't my favorite part of the White Album, but now I don't know, this should be a pretty close match because the second album is the one that I listen to now if I'm just going to sit down and listen to one of the albums, just because I haven't heard it as much time, so it's more fresh for me. Yeah,
so I gave it a listen the past couple of days, but I'm really not sure how, especially since we're mixing up the order, what's going to go against what, so that'll be interesting. We've decided the halfway point is that I will would be. So what's the first track? You do the first half, I'll do the second half.
All right. Well, you're making it easy on me. You're the one who has to do the math here. Awesome.
Yeah.
First track, Back in the USSR. Classic Paul song, kind of a parody of a Beach Boys track. Of course, Mike Love went to India with the Beatles to study transcendental meditation with the Maharishi. And it was just kind of Paul teasing the style a little bit, but it's a classic song, one of the most famous songs off the album.
Big hit. I mainly associate with one of my college roommates had it as his answering machine. He did a Reese, it's cornball. But if he's watching, hi Matt, different Matt, Matt Krivonic. But even though it's kind of a novelty song, I'm gonna have to go with Back in the USSR. How about you?
Yep, the same. There's just too much going on. Great harmonies, witty lyrics. The Ukraine girls really knock me out. They leave the West behind. Moscow girls make me scream and shout. And Georgia's always on my mind. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and you're a Beach Boys fan. So, and if it's going to be a Beach Boys knockoff, at least it's a good one. Exactly. What is track 2?
Yeah, speaking of good ones, Dear Prudence, beautiful John ballad.
This is a ballad too, Julia. A pretty one. This is tough. It's tough, but I have to go Dear Prudence. That's one of the best Beatles songs there is probably. So
Yep, Dear Prudence made top 25 favorite Beatles songs of all time list when I did that about a year ago. I love Julia though. The only knock I have against it, it's too soft. They didn't fix it well. And when you're listening to it, it's so It seems like it was done like on a personal home recording, and it doesn't quite match. And maybe that was what they were going for, but it doesn't quite
Like a
match.
demo. Yeah.
Yes. But I think the song is gorgeous. I think beautiful song.
What's track 3? I know, but
Track 3 is a song that is kind of a quirky little number. Our band actually plays it currently, and it's a hell of a lot of fun to play. It's Glass Onion, a song that the Beatles were kind of running with this whole Paul is dead, death hoax thing, and making a song of clues just for the sake of publicity or promotion of that whole cockamamie idea.
yeah, and it's relevant now because the new Daniel Craig movie coming out. But it's a goofy song. Whether or not it's goofier than Birthday, I'm not quite sure. It's a tough one. I could see these being easy losses against other songs, but this is a tough one. I think I'm gonna have to go with Glass Onion though, because it's not as goofy. I mean, it's goofy and it's in a unique way versus Happy Birthday to You. Do you know anything, like, not to make this all about a history of every track, but why'd they write a birthday song?
I think maybe they were requested to do Birthday. I don't know.
They saw how much
the
money
song.
the regular Happy Birthday song made in royalties.
Right.
Okay. All right. What's next?
Track 4, Obla Di Obla Da. Very polarizing song, Jacob. Very
Yeah,
polarizing.
not one
I'll
I
give it a
like.
hint.
We talked about how neither of us love Lady Madonna. I don't really care for Obla Di Obla Da, but versus Your Blues, I might have to give it. Do you like Your Blues?
I
Oh,
do.
yeah. This is the era of where like I'm not as much into the Beatles as bluesy stuff, and so as it transitions to this and Let It Be and Abbey Road, like those are the tracks that leave me a little cold. There's a couple exceptions, but Obla Di Obla Da is so goofy. 2, Your Blues is a legit rock song though. Obla Di Obla Da.
Hey man, go with your gut. That's cool. I hate Obla Di Obla Da. It would rank like 5 least favorite Beatles songs, and I've never liked it, which is so funny because that's a song you think a kid would like, and most kids do.
Yeah, I think I
hate
did
that.
as a kid.
Yeah, that
And I'm sure the next time I listen to Your Blues, I'll be like, why didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah, Your Blues isn't a pretty song. It's raw. It's raw, and it's John just rocking out. But there's that middle section where the time signature changes and it gets into like a swing, and then it goes back to that original kind of meter, which I think is really cool and creative to take a spin on a traditional blues riff. And I love his voice on it. He's just raw dogging it. And it's one of my favorite tracks off of the second album.
Go next.
Number 5. Speaking of goofy, if you thought Obla Di Obla Da was goofy in Glass Onion, we have Wild Honey Pie.
Yeah, this song sucks. I don't know if it sucks, but it's one of those ones that make me question, like, does it need to be a double album?
No.
Like, that's something that you would expect on an outtake. Like, before, I would have been happy if I never had heard Honey Pie up until like the anthology. And I would have been like, oh, okay, they were goofing off. That's fun. I think, yeah, we could do a whole episode where we pare this down to a very good single album. That could be something.
That. Let's do that sometime.
It's Against Mother Nature's Son, which is when you were talking about is a pretty song. That's a pretty song. Mother Nature's Son in a walk.
Absolutely. All right. Next song on the first half of the album, we have the longest song title, The Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill.
See, this is one of the ones when you hear it as a college kid, it's different than if you had heard it as a little kid. You probably would have liked it a lot more. It's against a song. Usually, I'm like, the songs about animals are not my favorite, but I do love Everybody's Got Something to Hide, except for me and my monkey. When I was listening to it today, though, like there's a bell or something jangling that's a little obnoxious. But I'm still going to give it to Everybody's Got Something to Hide, except for me and my monkey. Apologies to Bungalow Bill.
Yep, I'm with you. Bungalow Bill, also a song about animals. He went out tiger hunting with his elephant and gun. This was a biographical song as well. There was a guy with his mother who was into big game hunting. That was part of this Indian transcendental meditation thing. And they actually thought he was a real douche. So this song was not an homage to him. It was kind of a smite against him. But yeah, Everybody's Got Something to Hide is a fun, fast-paced rocker. And that cowbell is annoying. I agree, but I
Yeah.
like two long titles, actually. I didn't even think about it. I said Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill is a long title. Everybody's
Yeah, I think based on letters alone, Monkey wins.
I think so. All right. Speaking of long titles, this is another long title song. While My Guitar Gently Weeps is the next track. George tune.
Yeah,
Eric-
and we typically rag on George, but this is one of the legitimately good George tracks. And it's up against a good song, but it's not going to beat it on my end. It's Sexy Sadie. What has she done? It's a song I like,
Love
but
everyone.
yeah, it's a song I like, but it's no While My Guitar Gently Weeps in the top 3 George Beatles tracks for me. Maybe is it your number 1 favorite George track if you had to think over something?
It may be, however, yeah, something. I maybe I'd give the edge to Something.
Yeah.
However, I love Sexy Sadie.
I forgot you love. Yeah, you've mentioned this before.
It's a piano-driven tune, which obviously gets points from me because of that. It's got it's kind of a mid-paced song, so I wouldn't call it a ballad. It's definitely not a rocker. There's some really interesting chord changes in it. It's witty, intelligent lyrics. I love it. I'm going to put it a good John tune beats a great George tune for me generally all the time. So I'm giving it to Sexy Sadie.
Oh, well, good. I'm just kind of going with what the hits are a little bit. I know about the next track. You yeah, just say it.
Yeah, the next track is Happiness is a Warm Gun, the GOAT for me right now.
Yeah, we had a little conversation. You mentioned it's maybe your favorite Beatles song, and it's not gonna go out without a fight though. Helter Skelter is the track it lines up against. Yeah,
damn.
I am. Helter Skelter is a great rockin' track. Paul's vocals are awesome in it. He started performing it live again in like the 2000s when I saw him live. Why you could talk about why you love Happiness is a Warm Gun. I like to have like these phases, like it's evolving song. And I'm always a sucker for tracks like that as long as they have hooks and they're not just a bunch of So it's a tough one, but I'm gonna go with your GOAT. It's Happiness is a Warm Gun.
Yeah, I just have to. For the same reasons that you just said. It's got 3 separate movements. You got that nice "She's Not a Girl" that starts off, kind of like a Bohemian Rhapsody, Mama just killed. It's got that soft little beginning. And then in the middle, you got this really heavy guitar. Helter Skelter and this song are like the 2 heaviest maybe Beatles songs ever, with like maybe I Want You, She's So Heavy off of Abbey Road. But these songs, obviously were just very influential to bands like Black Sabbath and stuff that would come out with their debut albums, Led Zeppelin in late '69. But then that doo-wop section, Happiness is a Warm Gun, and that background harmony, bang, bang, shoot, shoot. And John just kind of doing his televangelist, when I hold you in my arms. Yeah, there's just so much going on with that song.
Yeah.
Helter Skelter kicks so much ass, and it sucks that it had to pair up against that because that would beat about anything else, but not the GOAT, Happiness.
All right.
Blisters on my fingers!
All right. Since you're the first half of the album, you should continue to go first.
All righty, we'll do. Here's where we kind of start, with one interruption, a string of songs about animals. This is Martha, My Dear, Paul's lovely little psych pop Baroque ballad about his sheepdog.
This is one of the tracks where I really have to strain my memory of which one is that? It's Long, Long, Long. So just based on that, I can't remember it. I'm going to go with Martha, My Dear. Do you remember Long, Long, Long? Of course you do. You have a much better memory than me.
It's one of my least favorite songs by the Beatles.
Okay.
I
Well,
would
that's
put it
probably
maybe, I'd put it slightly ahead of Obla Di Obla Da, but not much. Once again, this one suffers from production like Julie. It's too soft, way too soft. It's creepy. It's a George song, and it's kind of this folky thing, but it's definitely one that has kind of like nightmarish qualities to it. And you take that ambience away from it, it's just a really kind of mediocre, boring song. I think the ambience actually makes it a little bit memorable, but the song itself doesn't stand on its own. And Martha, My Dear, I think is just a fun, lovely,
yeah, very nice Paul
song.
song. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So the next one after that is another song that John writes about how lazy and tired he is. Obviously on Revolver, we have I'm Only Sleeping, and then here we've got I'm So Tired, but it's another really just drugged out, great kind of spacey song, and it's got some energy at the end when he gets, I wonder should I call you, but I know what you would do. You said you're doing me wrong. Yeah, I freaking love I'm So Tired.
Yeah, I've been listening to the album, and this one hits. Like I'm like, yeah, I am so tired. I like it. This is Revolution 1 is my next track, which is not the best of the Revolution. Like the single is the one we like. This one, you just are like, since you've heard the other one, you're like, I wish it was that one. It's still Revolution though. It's still like a pretty good song. I think I have to give it to Revolution. That's where I'm at. I wish it was, the single version, but it's not. You have to have Past Masters or Beatles 1 if you want to listen to that. It's not the worst Revolution, but it's not the best one.
It's the acousticy doo-woppy Revolution, because they do oh shooby doo. I like it, but I think the one that you hear on the single or the B-side to Hey Jude or whatever, because I mean, what a package. They actually call that the B-side, but that really could be a double A. That really could be a double A side. But Hey Jude and Revolver, or excuse me, Revolution, man, what a knockout 1-2 punch there. I'm gonna give it to I'm So Tired though. I just prefer it. If it was Revolution, the single though, yes, I would give it to Revolution.
Yeah.
All righty, keeping it moving here. We got Blackbird.
One of the definitive Paul tracks. Versus Honey Pie. Which, I like Honey Pie. I think it's as far as the goofy stuff goes, like that's my style of goofy. It's not Blackbird though. So what are you gonna do? Blackbird.
Yeah.
Home. I was singing like, what's the guy who sang the Mr. Belvedere theme?
Oh yeah. I get phones on the table. Is it?
I have 2 of his albums for some reason, but I can't think of his name right. Like Michigan J. Frog's on the cover.
Yeah. Is it? It's not Mel Blanc or anybody like that, is it? No. Shoot, we'll have to look that one up after the fact.
Who sang the theme to Mr. Belvedere?
Ooh, Siri.
Leon Redbone.
That's it. Nice.
Bob Euchre. Career.
Bob Euchre.
Yeah, I love Mr. Belvedere. That was my jam. That's why people watch.
Here's the thing I have against Blackbird. I don't like the sound effects by birds. I said Good morning on Sgt. Pepper too. Stupid, cheesy. Don't do it. The song stands on its own. You don't need to put those stupid bird sound effects. But yeah.
True.
Now we got Piggies, which was one of Charles Manson's favorite songs. As a matter of fact, he wrote people's names in their own blood with Piggies. That was one of Piggies and Helter Skelter. Those are like his the 2 songs that the Beatles told him to commit these crimes. Piggies.
Yeah, and he convinced others that they wrote the song for him. Yeah. It's against Savoy Truffle, which is another weird one. George, right?
Both of them are George, yeah. Both George songs. I mean, Piggies to me has more of like George Martin written all over it, because all that orchestration and stuff like that. It's got that Baroque pop sound. Whereas Savoy Truffle has got that good morning. This is another kind of one that you could tell George Martin had his name stamped all over, because you got that big band kind of sound like you get in Good Morning. Don't really like either one. I'll go first though. I'll give it to Piggies. It's just a little bit more fun. Savoy Truffle lazy. It's like, the genesis behind the song is he had a box of chocolates and they were writing songs, and the cream tangerine, Montelimon, coconut fudge. He's just reading off the candies in there.
It's
all it's-
yeah, it's not a song I skip,
No.
but Piggies is more fun. Charles Manson aside.
Right. Nothing brings out the fun in a song like a little Manson. Speaking of fun, next song is Rocky Raccoon. I've also found that this is a love it or hate it type of song, like Obla Di Obla Da.
Cry Baby Cry. Rocky Raccoon, the basis of Rocket Raccoon.
Really?
I think. I think he was a character of the 70s. Cry Baby Cry. I'm gonna go with Cry Baby Cry.
Yeah, this is quite close for me. Cry Baby Cry is, I think, an underrated John tune. I wish the volume was pumped up a little bit on this one too. It suffers from that Julia long, where it just seems a little demo-y. It like doesn't seem like it's fully produced and realized. I like the song though. Rocky Raccoon is just too much fun when it gets to that little honky tonk piano and Paul's going do 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 do. It's a fun story.
Gideon's Bible.
Gideon checked out and he left, no doubt, to help with young Rocky's revival. Yeah, I'm going to give it to Rocky Raccoon. All righty, so looks like we got two more here, Jacob.
Yep, two more.
And the next one is Don't Pass Me By, which is Ringo's first solo songwriting credit, because we found out when we did Rubber Soul, he gets a partial credit on What Goes On.
No. It's against Revolution 9. So I'm not going to give it to Revolution 9. I'm going to give it to Ringo and Don't Pass Me By. I think it's as far as Ringo tunes go, I think it's a fine one. Are you going to make the case for Revolution 9?
I'm gonna talk it out a little bit. I'll try
Okay.
to
All right.
your time and the audience's time here. So a bandmate of mine had recently said that his favorite song by the Beatles was Don't Pass Me By, and that completely floored me. I've always thought it was one of the crappiest songs ever, like not just by the Beatles. I don't think it's a good song. I think it's a terrible song. It's a skipper. I'd never listened to it. I hate it.
I don't hate it.
His voice is, I listen for your footsteps coming up the drive, and just awful lyrics. It's not catchy at all. It's just poorly performed.
The chorus is a little catchy.
Don't pass me. Yeah, the chorus is, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Revolution Number 9 was a track. I mean, do you remember
First time I heard it?
Yeah. Can you remember like where you were, like not knowing that it was there, or did you already know about it? And like it wasn't a big surprise?
I saw it. I think it's one of the tracks because it's referenced on The Simpsons with the B flats or the B sharps. That's what they are. And there was a whole thing where they do the number eight.
Gotcha.
And so I remember getting on the little pirate site and downloading Revolution Number 9, not the rest of this album, mind you, just Revolution Number 9, because I had heard but yeah, I'm never gonna choose to listen to it anymore. But maybe that's me for being closed-minded.
Well, I think it is like an exercise in studio excess, too much drugs and too much money and too much time on your hands, and go in the studio and play around, mess around, and be so arrogant that you'd put a 9-minute song on an album, like takes up pretty much all of side 4. However, when I first heard this, it would have been before that Simpsons episode. I'm probably like 8 years old, and listening to it, with my sister, like putting together a puzzle or something like that. And that song came on and it scared the absolute loving crap out of me. And it's still to this day, if I'm listening to, like, if I'm relaxing and I put this album on, or if I'm in bed and I have it playing, like maybe lightly, and that song comes on, it's a terrifying song to to be, you know, in a vulnerable state. And for that, it's like, I got to give it some credit and some merit. Like, I know exactly every little nuance of that track. I've listened to it a bunch. For years, I avoided, if I ripped the CD, I would take it off of iTunes, didn't want it ever to land on that track. So like, I give it some power, because like, what an emotional response that brings, even to me at almost 41 years old, like to still be kind of afraid of that song. Just very nightmarish. And I hate.
So are you going to give it?
I'm giving it to Revolution 9.
Okay.
I can't believe it. It would take nothing else to be. I mean, that would be like the only song it could beat. Track versus track, baby. Track versus track.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm gonna get some flack.
What's your half close on?
Why Don't We Do It in the Road? Just
Okay.
blues song, right?
Yeah, that's the blues song I like. Honestly, the album ends with "Good Night," which is a very pretty, quiet song. But like I said, I don't really care for the Blues at Paul song, but I do like that one because it's the most of that. Like, it's the apex of him doing his little bluesy voice, and it's kind of a funny lyric, honestly. And I kind of forgot it was on the White Album. I thought it was on. Probably Let It Be. So it was like, when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, this was like what set those tracks up. So I'm gonna go with Do It in the Road. You?
I do like Why Don't We Do It in the Road. We cover it. It's a really easy song, and it's, yeah, you're right. Paul puts out a great vocal performance. You know, I think he, you know, when you listen to songs like "Oh Darling" and stuff, he's kind of channeling that same, you know, really aggressive, go for it type of vocal. But because it's such a juxtaposition from Revolution 9 to Good Night, I think this is actually Ringo's best vocal performance. It's not a Ringo written song, but I think the orchestration by George Martin is beautiful, and it's such a segue from Revolution 9 that I've always found it to be like peace after this nightmare. And I absolutely love Good Night, and I know people think it's just a disposable piece of crap, but I'm going to give it to Good Night over Why Don't We Do It in the Road.
Okay.
I'm going to get.
I wouldn't call it a piece of crap. I just it's one of the more forgettable ones for me. So it's a good one to end the album on. So as a double, it's really what holds me back. There's just too much filler. I wasn't keeping score, so let's just say the White Album wins this match.
I'm 9-6 in favor of the first half.
Okay, and I was 11-4 in favor of the first half. But you know, to be honest, I've probably listened to the first half a lot more than the second half, because it's a long album and get tired of it.
Hey, I would have been the same. I would have been 11-4 too if I hadn't picked Revolution number 9 and Good Night to finish it off. So that was maybe a little act of charity there.
No, it's all good. We love it when people comment and tell us how big of morons we are. So please subscribe, comment, and like this video. And we'll talk more White Album, because there's a lot to chew on here and a lot to pit against other albums. So
bye, guys.
Keep watching. Bye.